Sean, the fundamentalist Christian government in your novel Passion Play set out to construct a utopian America. How successful were they?
It's closer to a dystopia. I mean, it is a dark world. It's one version of the world we see coming towards us as our standard of living decays, as people look increasingly for some sort of access to faith, some sort of moral standards, some sort of way to hold back the barbarian hordes, whether they're, the Japanese competitors or the economic aggressions from South Korea, or the blacks in the Bronx who are going to spill out and overwhelm you someday. I mean, people are digging in, and I think Passion Play is 20 years down the road or 30 years down the road, dug in North America.
Now, you've placed religion at the center of your dystopia, but do you think it's possible to create utopia without some sort of faith or spirituality?
Oh, I don't think so. I mean, you have to have some access to grace one way or another. You have to have some kind of faith. You don't have to, I distinguish between faith and belief here, right? You don't have to believe in a God who's an old man with a white beard who sits on a chair or not. But you have to have some sort of sense that life around you is worth living, that you are connected to some rich and important pageant. One of the best utopias written in science fiction, it's a small field because utopias are hard to do without being boring, but there's an extremely good book by a fellow named Stanley Robinson called The Pacific Edge, which is a very good attempt at a utopia in many ways, where in some senses the sense of community and a certain hard-headed and unsentimental commitment to ecological healing is where the characters find that sense of grace. What Robinson is smart enough to do that other people seem often not to be in writing his utopia is to remember that people are people. They fall in love, they break up, they're heartbroken. People continue to be the same no matter how perfect their circumstances.
As you can see, the people I talk to keep mentioning Kim Stanley Robinson, and now is the perfect time to call him. Nancy, access a channel to Stan, please. Pacific Edge is set in a near-future California, Shangri-La land. The hero, Kevin Claiborne, is not in conflict with his society, a future where both big government and big business have been scaled back for more power to the people. However, Kevin is in conflict with the mayor of El Medina over a commercial real estate development and over the love of a woman. The result is a terrific, passionate story with a love triangle over a triangle of land. Stan, it's Rick. What's your definition of utopia? Sorry, Stan, I can't hear you. Hang on, Stan. Nancy, is this the capstan head again, or what? Oh, no, this is live, not tape. Sorry, Stan, just a sec. Is the Pentagon jamming us, or what? Hang on. The old ways are the best ways. There we go.
Hello.
Hi, Stan. It's Rick.
Hi, Rick.
Sorry about that audio glitch there. I wanted to talk about utopias.
Oh, okay.
What is your definition of utopia?
To me, a utopia is a name for a positive course in history. In other words, it's not just a static state where history ends because society is perfect. It's a more dynamic thing where the world and our social systems are getting progressively better everywhere. And to me, that is utopia already.
Now, each chapter in Pacific Edge begins with an excerpt from Kevin's grandfather's diary. One early entry says, "What a cheat utopias are, no wonder people hate them." Why did he write that?
He wrote that because of this habit that most utopias have had so far of starting from scratch with a fresh start in history, which we in the real world are never going to have. So that, in a sense, these kind of utopias are useless to us because they all give themselves this artificial fresh start that is an impossibility in real history.
Actually, that reminds me of another snippet from the diary where the Marxist philosopher Marcuse says, "We can't imagine our route from here to utopia." Was Marcuse right?
Yes, well, especially when Marcuse wrote the book in the 60s, this comes from One-Dimensional Man, his notion that in current society, things seem so locked and fixed, as if all of our institutions were natural laws rather than things that we've made up ourselves. And he was saying that one of the things that's keeping us from getting from a better society is that we can't imagine a history that would get us from here to there, and that this stops us right from the start. Now, I think since the massive events of 1989 with the fall of the Soviet bloc, that it's become, and the end of the Cold War, it's become obvious to everyone that history is still ongoing and that surprising things can still happen. And so to me, if Marcuse were still alive, I think even as a Marxist he might admit that it's now become more possible than it was in the 60s to imagine our way to a better world.
The one step on your road to utopia that I can't imagine is the government essentially outlawing multinational corporations because, among other things, they treat workers like cogs in a wheel. Now, from what I see on my monitors, multinationals are already so wealthy they control government, or so powerful they ignore it. So how do you even approach this problem?
Yeah, I agree with you that this is, in fact, the most difficult problem, perhaps the crux, the next great world battle to be fought. And in a sense, it's democracy versus capitalism at this point. Now that the Cold War has ended and world socialism has, except for in China, fallen apart, we have the triumph of a global capitalist system that in many ways is in direct contradiction to the best health for the greatest number of people on Earth. And so I think this battle has to be fought across every front that you can imagine, including the local politics and support for politicians who will fight for campaign reform, so that it isn't, in fact, the corporations who are buying the politicians that are making our laws, but rather the people who are electing them. So that this is a direct confrontation that we're seeing being fought out, and I think will be one of the big important battles in the next stage of our history.
Right. Now, one last question. Why did you decide to end the book on such a sad note?
Well, the point I wanted to make is that utopia will not be perfect, and there will still be human unhappiness. One of the biggest objections to utopia is often put forth is that it would be boring, because there would no longer be human drama and conflict. And that's simply a political hit against the utopian thinking, against the notion that society could be better, made by people who are happy enough with the way things are now. In truth, even if we do have a very well-run society where everybody has got food, water, shelter, clothing, and medical care and education, which to me is a good functional definition of utopia, there will still be death and broken romance and the disappointment of one's personal ambitions. And these are drama enough. We don't need war, famine, and mass suffering to give human life meaning. In fact, that kind of thing degrades human meaning and only lowers our opportunity for discovering the true tragedies which exist in every human life.
Absolutely. Thanks, Stan.
Bye-bye.
We'll talk again soon. I like Stan's idea of a world with no hunger or thirst and everyone clothed and sheltered. That sounds eminently doable. Of course, how do you create utopia if you can't agree on what it is? I mean, the Vikings dreamed of Valhalla, a place of war and glory. The Christian definition of heaven on earth ranges from the Garden of Eden to Heritage USA. And nirvana is the Buddhist's ideal of no need and no passion. And it's also the perfect grunge band from Seattle. So, you know. But so far, to quote George Bernard Shaw, perfection has been achieved only on paper. On paper made by cutting down our forests, poisoning our rivers, polluting our skies, displacing birds and animals, ripping up the beautiful valleys, filling the landscape. Next week on Second Nature, American researchers built an enclosed ecosystem called Biosphere 2 to simulate the world's ecology. After it was sealed, the air went sour, the water grew stagnant, plants and animals died, and the humans became ill. It is almost a perfect simulation.